What have we here? A fresh face in this stale hell. Let's size you up, shall we? See if you'll do.
The lizard looks you up and down, like a farmer would a fetching horse. All of a sudden, he grips you firmly by the chin, with the intent of inspecting your teeth.
I'm inspecting your teeth, in case that wasn't spectacularly obvious. There's some discoloration, but I've seen worse. After all, one can't expect to find prime merchandise on a squalid little ship like this. Now then, to business. You will answer me 3 questions. The first one is this. Can you cook? Ah, music to my beleaguered stomach. On to the second question. Can you knit, weave? In short, tailor? Oh, but to feel the caress of satin on my scarlet skin once more. A most satisfactory answer indeed. On then to my final query. Have you the ability to administer the upkeep of one's personal appearance? The delicate art of cosmetics is what I'm after. The very basics, then. I suppose that's a start. So, 3 questions asked, 3 questions answered. Let's evaluate, shall we? As per your own testimony, you can cook, tailor, and groom. Well, that just about settles it. I offer you my sincerest congratulations. As of now, you are my slave. My slave, of course. Oh, but I see. Yes, I suppose it must take some time for the full extent of this honor to sink in. Anyway, you may leave me for a moment. We'll go over your duties once we reach Fort Joy. Now shoo!
You spot a strange lizard gazing over the water with a steady, malcontent stare. His skin is of a bright, blood-red color. Could he be... Yes, you recognize him from the ship. It would seem you're not the only one who survived the tentacles of the deep. The lizard turns about with the graceful ease of a dancer, or a duelist. You lock eyes with his, 2 smouldering embers that sizzle your very soul.
I did survive, yes. And chances are I wouldn't have, had you not returned to the aid of your fellow passengers down in that dreadful hold. You have my gratitude.
Hand over heart, he salutes you with a bob of the head. More than a nod, though less than a bow.
Yes, I'm sure you've all the makings of a hero and all that, but let's not get carried away, shall we? Nevertheless, one good turn does deserve another, so as far as the whole slave business is concerned, let's just forget about it. You may as well have your freedom. Now then, if there's nothing further... I'm sure I don't mean to sound condescending, but I had thought it quite self-evident I was gazing out over the waves.
He sighs dramatically.
Tell me, what do you see when you cast your glance over this ocean? Memories. Quite so.
He looks out over the water once more, and so do you. A few tranquil moments pass as the waves lap against your thoughts.
As for myself, when I consider this vast expanse before us, I see an empire. I see continents dotted with mighty cities. And shimmering along the soft curve of the sea's horizon, I picture the palaces that formed my paradise. Lost. Of course, it's rather specific. Quite obviously, I'm musing over the very actual empire that I lost.
Suddenly, having all the air of being deeply offended, he stares at you with utter incredulity.
Well, don't just stand there gawking like an ape at an abacus. Or do you really mean to tell me you don't know who I am? Well, more's the damn pity, isn't it? For I am the Red Prince, the All-Conqueror, the World-Tamer, the Spouse of the Sun. Of course you know me.
There's a brief moment's pause, during which his grandiloquent pose deflates ever so slightly.
That said, I suppose I must own up to the fact that I find myself rather in between all-conquering and world-taming opportunities at the moment. The grandeur that is my fate has hit a bit of a snag. But never you worry. For the throne I was destined, and my throne I shall have. Truly. A kind offer indeed. And you've already proven to be trustworthy enough. You came back for the others on that ship, after all. Fine, I accept. On one condition. For reasons I'll not disclose right now, it is imperative that I should meet with a dreamer, one of the mystics of my kind. I've reason to believe one of them may be present on this island. Promise me we'll look for him, and I'll extend you the blessing of my company. Jolly good. So, now that that's settled, first things first. Even if you are as versed in the art of eloquence as I am, that our swords will be doing a lot of the talking from here on out goes without saying. As a born fighter, I prefer the perfection of the blade myself, but I'm well acquainted with the secrets of magic and, yes, even subterfuge. What say you? Very well. Onwards, then, to victory or death.
The Red Prince nods and gives you a smile that wavers ever so delicately between courtesy and contempt.
Now, as you're aware, you'll be travelling with a prince. Proper forms of address include Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, or if you're feeling particularly frivolous, My Lord. As your luck would have it, I seem to be fresh out of luggage, so you won't be required to carry my belongings. Of course, there are other forms of protocol to bear in mind, but I'll see to it you'll pick up the rest as we go. So, without further ado, let us be off. Quite right. Do seek my counsel. I highly recommend it. As am I. A prince should die of old age or on the battlefield. Anything else could be construed as weakness of character. That said, I've the distinct feeling I wasn't meant to die today, for despite your heroics, I was still cast into the water. I sank. I drowned. But there was something in the water. A voice made of air that soothed my flooding lungs. There was sudden light, warmth, life. Truly, how intriguing. To hear a voice whilst drowning is a rather specific delusion to share, is it not? Still, I wonder if...
He hesitates.
Are you a religious person? I'm rather relieved to hear it. Religious persons tend to be all too self-important in their supposed humility. As for myself, I perform the ancient rites of prayer and ceremony with a kind of languid indulgence. After all, when one is revered by many as a living god oneself, public deprecation would be needlessly self-important as well, wouldn't you say? There was a small incident which prompted my many rivals to move against me. Technically, they had the letter of the law on their side. Such a nuisance, the law. Quite necessary to keep the common in line, of course, but one such as myself it should exempt as a matter of course. What I meant was that, being authority, I shouldn't be under any thumb. I had thought that was perfectly obvious. Sadly, that enlightened point of view quite clearly turned out to be academic. If not, we wouldn't be having this very conversation. I hardly know you as yet. Let's leave some mystery in the relationship, shall we? We can exchange criminal records later. There isn't much to say, but for the fact that I simply must. It's the portent of it all. I can feel it. The revelation will be world-changing. I just know it. And justified it is too. You'll be a witness to wonders, I assure you. As certain as the sun, such is my conviction. I will be, then grow beyond being. I intend to rule an empire one day, not a tiny outcropping in the sea, lording over gulls and guppy fish. To that end, I suggest we focus on the obvious. A farewell to Fort Joy and a hello to the mainland.
Aha! I found you, didn't I? Red, they said. Red, then dead. Not an attempt, mate. Not if I can bloody help it. Time's up, Your Highness. Let's dance!
Well, that was rather fun, wasn't it? I do find it ever so invigorating to cut a cutthroat's throat. Oh, one gets used to this kind of thing so quickly. This is hardly the first time someone's filled some poor fool's purse and bid him kill the prince. I'll tell you what, though. Whomever wants me out of the picture will have to do a lot better if they seek to get the better of me. All those bumblers they've sent so far mark a mere insult to my swordsmanship.
Just as you're about to address the lizard, the Red Prince bars you with an outstretched arm.
This man is a dreamer. As you know, I need a word with him. You may wait here while I speak. Permission indeed.
He bids the dreamer stand up and pay attention, which he does in a grovelling and awkward manner. The dreamer then chews and swallows a handful of Drudenay leaves before slipping into a trance-like state. He falls asleep. To your surprise, the Red Prince lies down and follows suit. After about half an hour, they wake up and begin to discuss what they saw in their dreams. The Red Prince pinches the bridge of his nose in apparent irritation before turning his back on the jabbering dreamer. You receive a withering glance in response.
A deserved bit of sarcasm, I suppose. But though this sting-tailed fellow may be a less than stellar specimen in the firmament of dreamers, the dreams themselves prove to be quite elucidating. Turns out I'm being hunted by an enemy I didn't know actually existed. The myth-shrouded House of Shadows. The dreamers, though, they're on my side. And they've visions of me on the throne. Of course it is. I was born with the promise of an empire, and that promise will be kept. But to keep it, I must find a second dreamer. A greater one. A more experienced traveler of the dream world. Bahara is her name, and she resides in the swamplands east of the fort. So, let us make our escape and venture there post-haste. Quite right. Do seek my counsel. I highly recommend it. Dozens, I should imagine, but if we're talking about the ones that came after my exile, this would be number 5. Let them come, I say. Keeps one sharp. Well, that's the whole idea, I'm afraid. Even I myself thought it a myth. See, the ancient empire consists of 3 houses. The noble houses of war and dreams, and the upstart house of law. We of war rule the empire. Or so I thought. For if the warnings I was given are true, there's not only such a thing as the House of Shadows, it also pulls the strings, and it seeks to string me up first chance it gets. And you in me. Bah! I should whip her till she's as red-skinned as I am, then leave her for the birds to peck clean. But there are broad waters between should and shall at the present. And I'm nothing if not a patient prince. It's forgiving that I've more trouble with. Still, you bewilder me just as much, don't you know? It was you who invited little Miss Needlework into the fold. Do you mean to tell me you're comfortable with what she's done? I'm gratified you noticed, even though it took the death of a good man for you to do so. Like I intimated, there's little to be done about it here and now. But should another such occasion arise, do remember the image of the whip. Yes, by all means, let us partake in the art of conversation. Oh, don't tell me you've never heard the stories. The tale of my birth has been a bedtime staple for years, a dinner party favorite. Cute. Very well then, listen closely. One day a red sun rose, turning the desert sands into a blood-colored sea. When my mother, roused from dreams, beheld this crimson dawn, she knew the time had come and promptly gave birth to me. The sun rose to its zenith, but there settled, refused to descend towards the beckoning dusk. Instead, she hung there for 7 days and 7 bright, starless nights, so enamored was she with her little red prince. Indeed, I've been a married man since the day I was born, for they call me the spouse of the sun. She who is all life and beauty, she whose colour I wear not in cloth, but in skin. Isn't it just? A beautiful, beautiful story.
He laughs wryly, baring rows of shark-like teeth.
There are those who believe that little legend, you know. I'm not one of them. To tell you the truth, I've no idea why I'm red, but I do fancy I was rather lucky to be born a prince. My heritage made people celebrate my uniqueness. Had I been common-born, they might have just drowned me in a well. Why, thank you. You'll find I don't live up to expectations with remarkable frequency. Case in point is that I have a high opinion of myself because of my unparalleled skills and intellect, not because of the bed I was born in. Though I won't go so far as to deny absolute wealth has its perks. Absolute power, for instance. No wonder I seek my way back to the throne. More glorious than you could ever imagine. More glorious than I wish to recall here. Ask me again once we escape, and I'll tell you tales that will last us 1,000 nights. Nothing's changed but for our surroundings. We're still on an island, in dire need of making for the mainland. Perhaps we simply ought to hug the coast in search of a ship.
The Red Prince interrupts as you're about to speak.
This woman is a dreamer. I can see the answers spinning in her eyes. Do rest your legs for a bit while I question her. You're too kind.
Red Prince and the Dreamer exchange courteous pleasantries, as if they're finding themselves in a palace hall instead of a death-ridden swamp. She introduces herself as Bahara. To your surprise, they next lie down on the ground in a seemingly warm embrace and fall asleep. What follows, though, is far from peaceful. They claw and thrash as if struggling for dear life, caught in the hold of some hideous nightmare. Then they wake, haggard, exhausted. They speak of a vision, Brahmos, and another red lizard.
Praise the daylight. I am now. There was death in that dream, chasing me like 100 hungry lions. But at least I've new directions. When we escape and find ourselves on the mainland once more, I must search for Brahmos the Wanderer. Then I will finally know the truth, the very secret of my soul. Yes? Is it an audience you desire?
The Red Prince takes on a reserved air, and you've the feeling he'd blush if such a thing could be noticed.
Secret of my soul, I said. What poppycock. Didn't sound like me at all, not in the slightest. So drop it. Quite right. Do seek my counsel. I highly recommend it. Indeed. Rallick, if I'm not mistaken. Always was rather the slow sibling in the Pantheon, wasn't he? Quite so. I suppose you too met with somewhat of a disappointment. For we do have to wonder, can a god be called a god still, if they have to plead with another to assume the powers they seem to have lost? You may have no interest in semantics, but clearly you have an interest in the promises of powers that were dangled in front of you. That much I can appreciate. Yes? Is it an audience you desire? Well, rather straightforward, isn't it? Some rule, some serve. It's the way of the world.
He rolls his eyes, sensing his answer didn't quite satisfy you.
It's a custom as old as time. We conquered, established rule, and demonstrated our unequivocal authority by making slaves out of defeated nobles and royals. Now the rules have relaxed somewhat. Slaves have simply become a commodity, a given. They come from all walks of life, from all over Rivellon. Of course, there are some that struggle with accepting the honor that is serving the exalted house of war, hence the scars. They are pinnacles of magic in their own subtle way. Works of art, really. A string around a slave's very soul. Obedience made absolute. Ah! Straight to the scholarship of the matter. Very good. Here's the beauty of the scar, see? It lives. It is one with a slave's tissue and bends his actions against his will. All this can be achieved by means of music. Every scar is attuned to a unique song, sound, or melody. He who knows the melody controls the slave. whistle, and oh, how they'll come a-running. Yes? Is it an audience you desire? It was all a bit ominous, wasn't it? With the divine dead and divinity itself dying. It seems we have no choice but to venture forth and, for lack of a better phrase, save the world. Bit of a bother, if you ask me. I had other plans entirely for the weekend. Why, sail for the mainland, of course. The sooner Fort Joy is but a blemish on the horizon, the better. Oh, you catch me during a meditative moment. Gods, voids, a perilous journey through the Hall of Echoes. One wonders whether one is awake or dreaming. In that case, it's high time we return to the order of the day, which in my case is still the domain of dreams, of course. Bramos the Wanderer told me to meet him in Driftwood. So, to Driftwood we must go. I can only hope it will be a town of opulence and plenitude, despite its rather discouraging name.
My good sir, I see that you accompany no other than His Royal Majesty, the Red Prince. I have a message for him of quite vital importance, if you'd be so kind.
Of course he'll be so kind. Speak freely, kinsman.
Directions, my lord. I was bid to send you to none other than Bramos the Wanderer. He was waiting for you here, my prince. But...
He looks around the hazy room with hasted eyes.
The House of Shadows stirs. The Honorable Bramos sensed them closing in. He had no choice but to flee from Driftwood. A little ways east he went, in search of safety, to an encampment of paladins. You will find him there, Majesty. And with that, I have told my tale.
Indeed I am. We will follow your directions. You have my thanks, kinsman.
Prince of Princes, I am humbled and grateful.
He bows deeply before the Red Prince, as reverently as one would before a god.
The House of Shadows stirs. An ominous phrase. It's as if I can feel the onset of night. Perhaps. But you must realize that until a short while ago, the very existence of the House of Shadows was a mystery to us. If this thing of darkness steps into the light, it must be desperate. And desperate means dangerous. You still stand by me, then, despite us being targeted by such a formidable foe? That is quite admirable, I must say. Onward, then. Let them strike when they may. We shall be ready for them. What's on your mind? Bramos the Wanderer. He's a legend among lizards. The greatest dreamer of them all. The one that has mastered the dark of horror sleep and has found sanctuary amid its horrors. The most inhospitable plane imaginable. A realm of insanity and death beneath a starless black. Picture a maze filled with your greatest fears. Picture haunting that maze forever. That is but the first step into horror sleep. Because if one braves the absolute terrors of nightmare and finds sanctuary there, one is safe even from the void. That's right. Horror sleep is a realm feared by the cosmic menace that is the void. Ideal location for a summer house.
He sighs, rather dramatically.
Oh, perhaps that's because I don't quite enjoy broaching the subject. Thank you. But I suppose you've earned the right to know. The long and short of it is that I was banished because I was found in bed with a demon. Because I invited her in, of course. How else? You clearly have a hard time understanding all this, so let me paint you a picture. I am a prince of the House of War. There are others with that title, but none of them are the Red Prince, the jewel in the crown of the Empire. I lived in the Forbidden City, a vast complex of palaces that houses the royal family and its servants. No others are allowed to enter it. As for myself, I was never allowed out. That is the price I paid for my genius. I was too valuable to be exposed to the dangers of the outside world. All the wars I won, and I won them all, of course, I won from the comfort of sofas. Bring me information, and I will deduct, then instruct. From amid the ultimate opulence of my quarters, I expanded and very much ruled the empire. I had it all. And frankly, I got bored. Exactly. I did not suffer the boredom of some spoiled brat. Mine was the absolute absence of challenge, the longing not simply to watch the horizon, but to journey towards it. If I could not experience the joys of the world beyond, I had to bring the world to me. Miraculous what a sorcerer can do with a little arcane lore. I summoned demons, the most dangerous game in the world. But they knew they met their match in me, and so we conversed. We drank wine, we played chess. Converse with demons, and you learn of the shadows behind creation. Drink wine with them, and you have visions of worlds beyond worlds. Play chess, and you know that one wrong move is certain death. My mind rejoiced. Now for the body, I reasoned, so with a certain succubus I spent nights that would surpass your understanding. So you do comprehend. I spent a whole year in the company of demons, every night atop the white library tower of my palace. It was my great study of existence. It was my supreme joy, even if... Yes, even if it led to my downfall. What happened next was simply unforeseen. One moonless night, the succubus that was my lover turned to me, fangs exposed. But I could tell from the glint in her eyes she wasn't bent on our usual fang play. There was no light in that glint. It was the darkness of the void, the wet darkness of spilt blood. And in short, I was afraid. I tried to move away, but it was too late. She was upon me. She had done it. She had outmaneuvered the Red Prince. Finally, I was vanquished. Oh, yes. Do allow me to explain.
The Red Prince regales you with an unsettlingly graphic description of what you consider to be a rather eccentric, if not aberrant, form of sexual gratification.
But of course that was all still rather innocent. I could tell you all about something truly special some other time if you like. Something to look forward to? Now where was I? Ah yes, the succubus. She went for my neck, quick as a charging cobra, but then suddenly it's as if time ground to a halt. Something deep inside me welled up, a power I never knew I had. She simply froze under my stare. Then she screamed. A scream so abhorrent its ripples caused birds to fall dead from the sky. People covered their ears in vain as they went insane. The Imperial Guard forced itself into my chambers and found me with the succubus still on top of me. I believe the phrase is, caught red-handed. At first, I admit it was all rather tiring. I was, after all, marched out of my own empire, and I've been hounded by the odd assassin ever since. After that came the indignity of the collar and incarceration. But ever since we decided to be so bold as to bid our farewell to Fort Joy by any means, it's all been rather fun. Oh, I could complain about the food and the lodgings and the sheer barbarity of the common folk, but in truth all of that fits within the larger frame that is adventure. Adventure is precisely what my life was missing. I told you earlier I could tell you tales about what it was like to be a prince of the house. Tales that would last us 1,000 nights. That is true, but I'd much rather speak of the tale we are shaping now. Accompany me back to my empire, and I'll tell them all in the palatial setting they deserve. More than anything else, we must grow in power. That is, find masters of the source.
As you're about to address the paladin, the Red Prince interrupts and asks him if he's seen a lizard matching Bramus's description. The paladin says that indeed he did, but that Bramus left in a hurry when a band of rather intimidating-looking lizards showed up. One of the scouts saw him heading south in the direction of the graveyard. That's all he knows.
Right. I have the information I came for. He's all yours now. This spirit, it beckons to me. A lone witness to the carnage that must have happened here. I must speak with it. There is an urgency in its bearing that cannot be denied.
The Red Prince addresses the lizard spirit. He turns out to be a dreamer, long dead, who speaks archaically and sings in a truly ancient tongue.
Rav Mudam, Anan Eket, Vetu Duran.
Like a lullaby, the melody lulls them both to sleep until, with a start, the Red Prince wakes once more.
My word. Even I, not in my wildest, most demon-lusting dreams, could have guessed a destiny such as this. A tale too preposterous to be believed, and yet so ultimately, so undeniably true once told. The race of lizards, all of us, we were dragons once. Great red dragons. Somehow, eons ago, we withered. We shrank, our wings shriveled. Never more to be the majestic creatures we once were. Until now. I am to be the father of dragons, and she, the Red Princess, is to be the mother. I've told you about her, haven't I? The secret of my soul. All my life I thought she was but a dream within a dream, but she is real. She is here. And I must go to her. To think she awaits me even now, no more than a walk away. Come, we must move north at once. It is a union years in the making. Of course I'm eager. But it is her safety that concerns me as well. We mustn't forget the House of Shadows continues to hunt us. The dreamer I met only managed to elude them by escaping bodily into the dream realm, never to return. Sacrifices are being made in our names, mine and hers, so that we may sire dragons. I intend to prove worthy of these sacrifices.
The Red Prince turns to thank the spirit for its aid. The old soul concludes its melody, and with it, its stay upon this world.
Pray speak. Gods know, though they are a nuisance. Believe me, a prince of the House of War survives his first attempts at assassination in the crib. His mother is not so much his keeper as his bodyguard. Though I must admit these fellows are rather tenacious. Do you tire of their attempts? Precisely. And it's precisely this sort of understanding that makes me appreciate our journey together. Quite a novel thing for me, this together concept. How about yourself? How lucky you are, then, to break your insular habits with my exalted companionship. I'm in rather good spirits after that invigorating fight, so I think I'll return the compliment. It's good to have you around. Ah, yes, the dream visions. I've been bombarded with a lot of grandiloquent prophecies that an analytical mind like mine is obliged to meet with a certain degree of skepticism. Were it not for the princess. Like all lizards, I give great credence to dreams, for I know them to flow not from the sleep-hazed mind, but from another plane of existence altogether. Sometimes, in that vast phantasmagorical chaos, two storm-tossed kernels meet and become a constant. The Red Princess is the secret of my soul. There is no doubt we are meant for one another, meant for dragons. Ontologically speaking, where the return of the great red dragons is as yet but a possibility in the realm of Rivellon, it is already fact in the disarray of dreams. I notice a certain limitation in your vocabulary. You're welcome. As if that ever was in doubt. Now, I don't blame you for being skeptical. It shows a penchant for logic. But logic, dreams, and prophecy make for an ill-tasting cocktail indeed. Bear with me, though. I'll make it taste sweet just yet.
The Red Prince stands stunned when he sees the woman you were about to address.
It is she. The woman I've dreamt of since birth. The secret of my soul, my sweet lady, it is an honor.
He approaches her, goes down on one knee, and courteously kisses her hand.
You do not disappoint, my prince. You're every bit the gentleman they said you'd be. How very pleasurable, is it not, to finally meet in the flesh? For it is very much in the flesh that we must meet after all. Become one. Father, life-shaper, that is what the goddess called you. How good of you, dear prince, that you have come to shape life in me.
He stands up and scrapes his throat, but before he can say anything, she silences him by sliding her hand in his. She looks at you for the first time with a look of understated condescension that could rival the Red Prince's own.
I am Sada, Princess of the House of Law, and you interrupt the destined union between the Red Prince and the Red Princess.
Softly, she moves her body against his, puts her arms around his neck, her mouth hot against his ear.
Let's forget for a moment all the forces that drove us here, shall we, my prince? Let us think of nothing but ourselves, one amid a nest of satin. You and I, we know each other like only true lovers do. So at long last, let us become lovers.
By my empire, yes. At long last we shall become lover. Quite. Why don't you, enjoy a nice stroll? A nice, long stroll, while the lady and I enjoy a more private moment.
Sada smiles at him so endearingly, it almost melts your heart.
Come, my prince. Let's retire to that satin nest of mine. Follow me.
Sada and the Red Prince enter the wagon, close the door behind them. Nothing for it but to wait until they re-emerge. A sound reaches you from the wagon, some kind of moan. You take a step closer. The sound becomes more pronounced. There's definitely moaning going on, but what kind of moaning? You place an ear against the wagon, and you listen. Oh my, yes, there's no doubt about it now. You have all the empirical evidence you needed to conclude these are very much moans of ecstasy, which leads you to deduce both of the wagon's inhabitants are, in fact, quite safe. Feeling rightfully relieved and satisfied to have done your duty, you can't help but notice one of the window shutters stands ajar. You stand on your toes and look into the window. Golly, this is the first time you see the beast with two backs and two tails. Holy, that is highly educational indeed. You wonder if... Uh-oh. Sada is looking you right in the eyes, and she seems none too pleased. There's a hustle and a bustle and a rush of naked bodies. Next thing you know, the Red Prince has opened the window, grabbed you by the collar, and lifted you up into the air.
What in the name of Damien's demon-kissed arse do you think you're doing?
Looking very surprised, he's clearly taken aback by this admission on your part.
We'll talk about this later.
Without a further word, the Red Prince releases his grip, and you fall to the ground with a rather hard thud. Overhead, you hear him close the shutters with a bang. Spoil sport. Several hours later, Sada and the Red Prince exit the wagon hand in hand. He glares at you and is about to say something when you suddenly witness a group of lizards appearing as if out of nowhere. Their commander is a vile-looking lizard, his face the very definition of mischief. Chuckling, he addresses the couple.
Well, 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 look who's coming up for air. Mighty powerful noises I heard coming from that there carriage. Teensy bit jealous I am.
Silence. You will bow before us and explain this intrusion, or by the seven I will cut you down where you stand.
My, oh my, you didn't tell Loverboy anything, did you, Dollface? Naughty, naughty. You've been played for a fool, little prince. She's sworn to another. That's right. Your boo is betrothed to a very different kind of king. All she needed from you was a dollop of prophecy juice. I dare say she got it.
You utter villain!
The lizard commander notices, winks at you and licks his lips. Meanwhile, the Red Prince gently cups Sada's face in his hands.
Sada, my sweet, our meeting has been shrouded in mystery, but know that I'll do right by you. Know that I love you.
And I love you. Together we will brave it all, even the king.
Oh, ain't that as sweet as a bowl full of peaches? Hate to be that guy, but I gotta break up the party now. Time for you and your belly full of litter to crawl back to the king, darling. Gonna get me some private time with Prince Charming myself.
He grins widely, revealing rows of blackened teeth.
I've always had a soft spot for red meat.
The Red Prince fondles a satin handkerchief, his face a scowl, his eyes two ember spectres.
She gave me this handkerchief. Something to remember her by. Who would have thought so soon would come our parting? The longing of a lifetime squeezed into a few short hours of perfection. Only to end with blood and bereavement. I will, won't I? Thank you.
He hugs you back. The embrace lasts and keeps lasting. When you finally pull away, you can tell he's somewhat embarrassed, but he smiles at you warmly nonetheless.
We've become very good friends, haven't we? Even if you are a peeping Tom. Yes, by all means, let us partake in the art of conversation.
He looks at you sternly, for all the world like a schoolmaster lecturing an errant brat.
You know very damn well what happened in that wagon. All I can hope is that the encounter is etched into your mind, for what you saw was the conception of a new world. Not to mention an unparalleled lesson in lovemaking. But do tell me, what did you mean when you said you were jealous of Sada?
He looks at you incredulously, but then you spy a tenderness in his eyes.
I had no idea that you felt this way. Let me try something.
He leans in, and your lips ever so lightly meet. Feeling you reciprocate, the Red Prince kisses you passionately.
My. Talk about still waters. Can't wait to find out how deep you run.
His eyes attest to a desperation you've never seen him acknowledge in any way whatsoever before. He seems restless, angry, on the cusp of a tempest you never expected could ruffle his unshakable demeanor.
Finally, I found her. Finally, I found her, only to lose her again. It's unthinkable, unbearable, to know she's in the hands of such villains. Aye. She's gone, damn you! Don't you understand? Just let me.
He closes his eyes and begins to chant an old mantra. His voice mesmerizes, and as he calms, you too feel serenity descend upon the scene.
There. Much better. I apologize for my irritability just now. What you don't realize is... Tell me, have you ever been in love? Too many, unfortunately. Suffice to say, I am in love. In such a way that is the very core of my entire existence. My empire and my throne, I must have them back, there's no question about it. Divinity itself, by all means, I crave it. But above all, above any of them, I cherish her. Yes, I suppose it is. You must know she is my deepest desire, that I've longed for since my soul slipped into consciousness. To see her taken away from me now, after our first meeting, it rends the heart. Words that mend. I thank you for them. I will scour this world in search of Sada, and if by mortal means she eludes me, I will take Divinity for the purpose. More than anything else, we must grow in power.
A war owl swoops down from the sky and delivers a message for the Red Prince. Red Prince, I am the one who has been hunting you, but you cling to life all too tenaciously. We must speak of the reason for your expulsion from the ancient empire, and we must speak of the Red Princess. Find me on the Nameless Isle at the Temple of Zor Stissa. In the presence of the goddess, let war and shadow meet.
Quite right. Do seek my counsel. I highly recommend it. It's most intriguing. A message from the House of Shadows. The ones who so fruitlessly sent assassins after my good self. Well, first, I will hear the man out. If he can lead me to Sada, well, I can spare my ears a moment or two for that. Besides, only polite, I always say, to hear a man out before beheading him. What house? Ha! A peculiar query. But very well, I'm no stranger to parlour games. Let's see. From what I gather, you've a certain illicit quality about you. You're the kind that doesn't shy away from violence, but in fact welcomes it. There can be no doubt that would place you in what else but the House of Shadows. Don't get your hopes up. We don't adopt. Surely it's obvious. Ascension awaits. Once we manage to gain access to the actual Well of Ascension. I must speak with this man. Please stay close, and keep an eye out for assassins in the shadows. Very good. Now for some answers.
Red Prince, at last we meet, or rather, meet with your awareness of my presence. How often I've stood by you but an arm's length away, a shadow within the shadows, untouchable. Almost like meeting an old friend.
His eyes are black holes in a black-skinned sky. He bows with the deference of a noble among nobles, swinging ever so playfully between sincerity and sarcasm.
I suppose I should start with an apology for the attempts on your life. Talk about getting off on the wrong foot, wouldn't you say?
Failed attempts, remember? Hardly made me break a sweat, those lackeys of yours.
To my astonishment, and, I admit, my admiration. You may find this hard to believe, but given different circumstances, I would have been quite content to let you live. Let you play the Emperor from your golden throne in your golden city. Alas, certain events beyond even my control were set in motion. Ripples became waves. I had to act. And so I arranged for you to meet with an unfortunate self-inflicted end. His libido is legendary. How could he resist? And what better way to organize his demise? But of course I didn't know then he was God-woken, stronger than the demon. It's almost a pity we find ourselves on such opposite sides, all because of who you are, and all because of who she is. It was Sada who set events in motion, Red Prince. If you were the ripple, she was the wave. She's a tidal wave that will take wing, become a murder of dragons, red as the setting sun, that will alight every corner of this world with the terrible splendor of fire. To make a point, for it is murder they would commit, and it would be murder that would be committed upon them. The simple truth of the matter is that, yes, we lizards were dragons once. The mightiest creatures to rule sky, earth, and sea. But such was the jealousy of our power that all other races united against us and brought us to the brink of extinction. No one knows what happened next. Was it wizardry? Was it Zor Stissa who took mercy on us even then? Suddenly we were dragons no more. Lizards instead. And as lizards we flourished and built an empire once more. But the House of Dreams trades in prophecy. They've always known we could be dragons again. For one day a man and a woman will be born, and their skin will be red, and the fruit of their union will be great red dragons.
A day that will come to pass.
Curse your obstinance. Listen to me. I am the House of Shadows. This is my role. I see the great games in motion. Allow them their flux when they advance for good. Cut them short when they advance for evil. Even if that means doing evil. The renaissance of dragons would spell the end of our race, plain and simple. To that end, I needed you to die, but you proved to be all too worthy an opponent. An opponent, I would now see an ally. Ally with me, Red Prince. Find Sada and kill her. If she births dragons, all other races will unite against us, and this time they will destroy us for good. We were spared last time. The condition of our continued existence was that we'd never let the dragon roar again.
They look each other in the eyes, like two chess players contemplating their next move.
Actually, I think I'll call his bluff. Now then, I'm the Red Prince. Your role in this story is over. I am its sole protagonist. Sada may indeed be dangerous. I may decide she must die. I may not. But it will be my decision. You're out of options, Master of Shadows. Tell me where she is.
The Shadow Prince stands checkmated, and he knows it.
I truly have no choice, have I? Very well. I must put the fate of all lizards in your hands. But beware. Sada is ultimately dangerous. Not only will she be the mother of dragons, I fear she's fallen in with an old enemy. Them.
He points to the fallen black ring.
If I'm correct, and Sada's heart has been darkened by the ring, you may be able to find her through their scrying magic. There's a thing on this island known as the Sallow Man. He is a master of mirrors. Mirrors like his will read your mind and show you what you desire, if you manage to elude or eliminate him. A word of warning, though. He is like a shred of nightmare ripped from the dream realm, set loose in reality. Do not underestimate this creature. Be careful, and become the savior of all lizards, Red Prince. Become the true emperor of your people.
I will be Emperor, yes. Of lizards or dragons, that remains to be seen. What can I do for you?
The prince narrows his eyes at you, each one glittering in the light.
So the House of Shadows thinks Sada a threat. Their Shadow Prince wants me to kill her because she will be the mother of dragons. Fire, destruction, the end of the world. What do you think? Only one way to find out, as far as I'm concerned. Let them be born.
How resolved he looks. How royal his bearing.
Or did you think I'd be swayed by that shadow mongrel? His kind, it is all cowardice. They who are scared of what might happen do well to be afraid of what will happen, for they only strengthen the resolve of those they oppose. As for the world's reaction, I will deduce, I will instruct. And so it does not matter how the world reacts. Each eventuality ends with my victory.
You gaze into the mirror, and you see a red lizard.
Is that Sada? I must see her. Step aside, please, and let me look into the mirror. Thank you. Now, let's see what visions this dark glass weaves. I see her. She's in a city. There's a great cathedral. Arx. She's in the city of Arx. I recognize the cathedral from paintings in my palace. I know where Sada is, and once I leave this island, god or no god, I will find her. Go ahead. If this man was to be believed, he was the House of Shadows, which implies said institution exists no longer. I am not of the opinion, however, that this man was to be believed. Was he prince? Maybe. Did he truly work for the good of our empire? Perhaps. He could have been no more than a lowborn, with a taste for drama and deceit. He could be one shadow prince in a legion of thousands. All that matters is he's dead. No longer can he stand in my way or pose a threat to Sada, which quite calls for a celebratory round of drinks as far as I'm concerned. The sallow man's mirror was rather obscure, but I have my suspicions. There's an ancient empire consulate in the city, you see. By far and away the only place with the appropriate decor and decorum to host a princess. Rather hard not to think of Divinity, wouldn't you say, once it's become a promise? I've always known I was destined for greatness. To be godwoken, though, that I did not quite see coming. Did you? Admiration, jealousy, and fear. Ha! Like we were separated at birth. But of course that doesn't quite answer your original question. I have thought about the prospect of divinity, yes, and about what divinity really means. When one strips away from the term all the pomp, all the piety, all the manifold associations it calls to mind, one is left with a single word: power. The true meaning of divinity is power, and as it so happens, power means a great deal to me. The only thing you have to ask yourself is, does it mean anything to you? Well, 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 this is, as they say, it. Divinity. Surreal, is it not? So much more insubstantial, almost, than desiring an empire, or vengeance, or fame. That said, I'll not deny I very much aspire to the surreal. No greater emperor than the one that sits on the throne of gods. Well, that wasn't quite the reply I was expecting. How very magnanimous of you. You will probably think this highly uncharacteristic of me, but I stand perplexed by your decision. So very many things are so quite different from what I thought them to be. This journey of ours, this strange and violent pilgrimage, it has changed some preconceptions. It's not so much that my desires have changed. It's that they've multiplied. They were like a diamond kept hidden in a secret pocket for none but me to see. But then the diamond was forced into the open, held against the light. And in that light, so many colours I never knew were there. Sada, the secret of my soul. I think that perhaps I value her more highly now even than divinity. The final prize will be mine. And I know I have you to thank for it. So thank you.
After all that's just happened, life, every flawed morsel of it, seems more precious to you than ever. You look around at those who have accompanied you so far. In each one, something unique shines through. Divinity has eluded you so far, but humanity beats strong within you, here and now. Who knows what lies ahead for you, for your companions? Your quest failed. The void is growing stronger, and the hall is dark. You feel the need for some affection. Perhaps they feel it too. His smile is like a conquest. His chest, swiftly moved against yours, a battalion ready to breach.
Well, well. It's not the top of a white marble tower upon which a bed awaits beneath an infinity of stars, but I suppose it'll have to do.
He walks over to the bed, sits down and pats it invitingly with his hand.
Come, sit next to me. I've got something for you.
He laughs good-naturedly.
You've a wicked mind. You'll enjoy this.
As you sit down next to him, he produces from the depths of his garb a magnificent glass bottle, delicate of shape and sapphire of colour.
I've held on to this ever since my expulsion from the Forbidden City. I was going to open it upon my return, but this...
He looks you lovingly in the eyes.
This is an even better occasion. You are being honoured with something quite exceptional. Wine, but no ordinary wine. This was made from the grapes of vines that meander along my palace's walls like the curious fingers of lovers. It's a drink sought after by emperors and artists and philosophers. One bottle such as this can ransom a king. Time will tell.
He pours 2 glasses from the bottle. The wine is so dark as to be almost black. He holds out one of the glasses to you.
Here, let's toast. To us.
You drink, and it's magnificent. A taste that is warm and sensuous, like a prelude to ecstasy spreading itself through your veins. Then, just as sensuous, his hands are like the vines he spoke of as they meander all over your body.
Sada, I see. I cannot speak for her, but if I saw you and her together as we are now, I admit my heart would break. I'm merely being honest. It is not my intention to deceive you in any way. I love Sada, but I love you too. Stay with me here, and I will make you feel cherished in a way you've never been cherished before. Love and lust will blend into a new definition of bliss. What say you? You're wonderful.
You kiss, and you keep kissing, entangled in one another's arms. All the while you pull at each other's clothes, until finally the very last of them is discarded upon the floor.
Darling, to behold you in this naked glory is to surmount the boundaries of existence and step into a more perfect universe. Let gods and divines keep their powers. To feel you and taste you and be with you is all I need. I hunger for you. There's no stopping me now.
His mouth against your ear, he whispers,
How do you want me? You read my mind.
He picks you up with arms strong enough to move boulders, kisses you with a savage passion, and positions your belly down upon the bed. Next, he leans over you with a firm spank on the bottom, his breath and his body hot along all your length.
Even if you go on to become a god, you will always remember this night.
And there it is. You wake, and all is warm and smooth and just as it should be. The Red Prince's hands still glide along your every curve.
My word, I just can't bring myself not to touch you. Good. Then we can stay here forever. But of course we can't, can we? How perfectly horrid.
He rises and starts to dress. You follow suit.
To see you dress. Truly the world has never witnessed a greater crime. Yes, by all means, let us partake in the art of conversation. A battle lost, a war begun. Dallas and that pet of hers are a force to be reckoned with. There is more to them than meets the eye. But what truly makes me pause is the fate of the Seven. How pitiful they were at the end. Think on it. Gods reduced to snarling beasts. So starved of sauce, it made them rabid. Think on it, because that is what we're fighting for. To be a god, knowing what a god really is. I'd love to talk about the two of us, though I'd much rather be the two of us once more.
He sighs happily, as he no doubt recalls some of the more pleasurable details of your time together.
Oh, a night to remember. A night, in fact, for the ages. Perhaps there are more of them to come. Come here.
He embraces you lovingly, his arms and even his tail wrapped around you.
If ever the world ends, let it be like this. To love and be loved the moment before oblivion. The powers of the Seven lie hidden in this city. So by all means, let's play hide and seek with Divinity itself.
An elegant and imposing lizard appears within the haze before you. Ignoring you completely, he bustles past you to the Red Prince, genuflecting before him on one knee.
Red Prince, spouse of the sun, Anan Nerchet. I, your servant, Bramos. I was keeping the portal at the consulate open for you, but...
Catching himself mid-speech, he suddenly turns to glower at you, beady eyes bright with hostility.
Perhaps we could speak somewhere more private, my lord.
My companion stands with me. Whatever you have to say to me, he may hear.
Bramos narrows his eyes at you before turning back to speak to the Red Prince.
Very well, my lord. There have been so many obstacles. The House of Shadows, agents of the God King, and other trifles beneath your royal ears to suffer. But none of that bears thinking of now. For all that matters, your highness, is this. You are here, and the Red Princess awaits you.
The princess? Where is she? Out with it, man!
In the center of the dream, your majesty. In the sunset eye of the dragon. Agents of the God King seek her relentlessly. There is no hiding place safe enough for her in the material realm. Only in the dream can she rest.
Lead me to her, Bramos. Show me the way.
She's right here, my prince. Cross the threshold, pass through the iron door behind me.
He reaches out and hands the Red Prince something small and shiny, a key.
Majesty, she awaits you.
My prince, with your every step toward me, my heart beats more happily. Come and look at the fruit of our union, a dragon as yet unhatched. And there are more eggs lying upon velvet cushions in my tent. Dragons to be, yet all too vulnerable as they lie dormant in their shells. What is yet unborn will one day spawn an empire. We must protect them, my love.
Our children. They are to be dragons.
Of course. Don't you know the prophecies? One day, a man and a woman will be born, and their skin will be red, and the fruit of their union will be great red dragons. That is who we are, the Red Prince and the Red Princess, the heralds of dragons. Soon, a new age will begin. What was dragon became lizard. What is lizard will become dragon once more, though many plot against us.
The House of the Shadows, yes, I know.
Others as well, even the God King.
The God King? But why?
It seems inconceivable to me now, but in my blackest hour, I turned to him for guidance. You must know, my prince, I was desperate. The House of Shadows closed in around me, determined to kill me before I could become the mother of dragons. Then there was a voice, promises of protection and power in Kingdom Come. I became sworn to the God King, but when I saw his followers, the vilest creatures one could conceive, I realized how poisoned his gifts would be. I did the only thing I could do. I appealed to our old champions of the House of Dreams and fled here, into a world untouchable by our foes. But I cannot stay here forever. Our children must return to Rivellon and fulfill their destinies. However, as long as I am sworn, as long as the God King lives, this is impossible. The burden falls on you, my love. Only you can save us.
We have a sworn breaker. We can undo her covenant.
A sworn breaker. My prince, and you, my saviour. You never cease to amaze.
As Sada takes the scythe, a black tendril becomes visible, rising from her heart into infinity. With a decisive cut, she slices it through. A hiss, and it evaporates. She's free. She's sworn no longer.
The curse is lifted. The dread voice of the king is gone.
She embraces the Red Prince passionately.
You have set me free.
But you'll never be truly free of the God King as long as he threatens all of Rivellon. There's only one course of action left open to us. I must face the Dread King and kill him myself.
My prince, your children will help you. Here, take one of the eggs and engulf it with fire. Do so, and your child will be born, ready even now to fight by your side. With a single breath, you'll usher in a new age, a new creed, before which all must bow. A dawn of flame.
Sada, the child will be a dragon, yes, but to expose it to such danger, I'm just not quite certain this would be the right course of action. Very well. My child will skip the cradle for combat. I wouldn't have it any other way, really.
The God King must burn. Under your joint command, let my offspring be the all-consuming fire. Now go, and take this ring with you. It is the ancient circle of suns. By this ring, I make thee one with fire. And one day, by this ring, I'll thee wed. One more battle, my prince. Then we will return to our empire as king and queen. Our children will flourish, and the world will be theirs. Our marriage will unite the houses of war and law into the House of Dragons. That is how it will be. The prophecy will be complete.
They embrace, lips hot upon lips.
Yonder portal will take you back to Rivellon, where the God King awaits. Good luck, my prince. I love you.
And I love you.
The shell cracks open. A small dragon's head becomes visible. It looks at the world around it and roars, flame bursting from its mouth. Though but moments born, you can already feel the terrible power of this creature.
Look at it. Isn't it magnificent? A tiny titan ready to burst forth with unstoppable force.
The dragon hears its mother's voice and roars again. Spreading its wings, all of the shell gives way. It has happened. For the first time in millennia, a great red dragon is born. You approach the dragon and take it in your arms.
Yes, go with your father, my darling. Make me proud.
The dragon nuzzles you with its snout, happy in its father's arms. A bright red flame surrounds you both, but does no harm. It is the magic that binds you to the dragon.
Your soul has bonded with your child's, my love. Call for it, and it will join you in battle.
Off the dragon soars, ready to heed your call.
Yes. Is it an audience you desire? Congratulate me, for take my word for it that I will treat my offspring with care. My children. I will teach them to be wise. I will teach them to be prudent. I will tame their flames. But my empire, that will be eternal. For with red dragons in the sky, it shall be untouchable. Let our allies rejoice, and our foes tremble. From now on, one has the choice to bask in our suns, or by their fire be undone. Here we stand, once more on the cusp of divinity. But this cup, so long thirsted for, I willfully let it pass from me. All my life has been a lead-up to this, to be the King of Kings, God of Gods. I will not say it was in vain, but I will say it was vanity. If I were to chance upon my throne right now, I would sit down beside it, cast my glance to the horizon, and think of worthier things. I'd think of Sada, my great love. I'd think of my children, their joyous dance through fiery skies. And of course I'd think of you, of the adventures we had, of our unlikely yet heartfelt friendship. Yes, I'd sit there, thoroughly contented, and wait for you to ascend the throne. I know.
A mischievous smile.
But I do have to add, likewise.
The Red Prince eyes you imperiously. His embers for eyes have become as bright as suns, but you can't look away.
It is done. For the first time since the chaotic birth of time itself, the entire universe has finally clicked into place. For I am its god. How does it feel to be in the presence of cosmic perfection? On the contrary, come, meet my eyes. Dare to look into the sun.
The intensity of the flame hurts, but then the fire makes way for a vision of the wheels of the universe spinning, and it's the Red Prince's hands that spin them. If any doubt remained, it has now been erased. He is a god, all-powerful.
I told you, perfection.
He looks up at the vast, empty sky and smiles.
There's a dome fit for a god. I suppose you'll remain by my side in worship, or do you have other plans? Sada will always come first, but of course gods do tend to have a rather large appetite, don't they? Remember all those dalliance-filled myths? Yes, I think I'll be creating many a myth myself.